Alright, here we are with the last in this mini-series in which I discuss some of the bosses from Soulsborne that I found to be the best, the worst, the easiest, and or the hardest. For this video it is of course Dark Souls 1, the first one I ever played, and I'm going to look at the bosses which, in my opinion, are the easiest. Stree Demon is going to start things off at number 5. Now, when I first played this game, Stree Demon was a bit of a wall, actually, for me to get past. Well, maybe not a wall, maybe a fence, if you will. But on my first playthrough, he was quite testing for me. It was down to his AoE attack that I just couldn't get my head round. It seemed, at the time at least, that no matter where I stood, it would always hit me. He also has his punishing hammer swings that will knock you around like a pinball. So he does have a significant presence, but once you learn how to avoid them, then you'll most likely never get hit again. And that's why he's on the list. He's just a bit predictable. Plus, he has the tendency to do the AoE attack several times in a row, not even facing you. It's as if he's blind. He won't even bother to turn back around. He just grumpily stomps his feet because he's pissed off you broke his ceiling. Anyway. He is optional, but I do enjoy the fight a lot, just because I like the challenge of not getting hit by him, and I think he looks really intimidating. And it's a good idea generally to go back to Undead Asylum to pick up the Iron Ring. The Iron Ring makes you walk through the swamp at Blighttown at normal speed, so it's just nice to have. Oh yeah, and you get a Titanite slab for defeating him as well, so even more reason. At number 4, it is Asylum Demon. It's become a trend for me now that the first boss of each game will usually end up in the easy boss list, and Dark Souls 1 is no exception. Make no mistake though, if you are new to the series, Asylum Demon will certainly test you, and it may take you a few attempts to really get the hang of things. And of course, for me, Asylum was literally the first boss from the Souls games that I did defeat, so I had a steeper learning curve than usual. It was tricky getting the knack of backing away, and carefully healing at the right moment, and then being able to manoeuvre back in for the attacks. It was a great introduction that wasn't too much that made me rage quit, or anything like that, but it was enough to teach me exactly what was in store for me, and what kind of game this was. As for the fight itself, it's also pretty cool that it basically teaches you the plunging attack, so that you know that's a thing for later encounters. If you pull it off successfully, you've already taken off a substantial amount of health, and therefore it makes things a little less painful. You see? Not everything in these games is going to be as tough as nails. Sometimes there are ways to make things a little less stressful, and I think that's cool. Gaping Dragon is at number 3. Gaping Dragon's cutscene is certainly something you won't forget very soon. It's probably one of the most spectacular there is. At first you think you're going to attack some little crocodile, but then you realise, yes, that was just the nose of this obscene creature. Gaping Dragon erupts from the darkness as some kind of massive croco lizard with rows of teeth that resemble a shark's mouth. The visual design alone is just incredible. What kind of twisted mind creates this? However, when the cutscene ends and you're ready to go into battle, you'll soon realise this thing is just too plagued by its own slowness to ever be threatening to you. It doesn't do much in the way of aggression. It feels like a lot of the time it's just trying to find you, and when it eventually does, you're already at the other side of the room. It is so easy to avoid, it's ridiculous. It's not even a challenge to do a flawless victory in this thing. With the Gaping Dragon does come a valuable lesson. Not every large, hellish looking demon is going to be difficult. Sometimes I think it's just there to scare you, to put the fear into you, so you panic and then maybe die. After a death like that though, you'd be hard pressed to fall victim to this boss again. Iron Golem makes it to number 2. With the boss of Sen's Fortress, maybe you were expecting something a little more devastating, but Iron Golem is yet another slow-moving boss that you can punish by darting in between his legs. Having played Demon Souls recently, I was reminded of Iron Golem when I fought Tower Knight. it plays out practically the same way, except there's no archers and there's no weak spot on his head. But everything else, even down to the appearance, looks and feels the same. He even falls down if you make him stumble on his feet by attacking his ankles. He's just a bit pathetic, really. Another boss that looks way tougher than you expect. The first time I ever saw him actually, I commented that he looks a lot like a boss from a Final Fantasy game, and that definitely made me quite scared. The only thing that I suspect might kill you here is gravity. It is a fairly small platform, and maybe, if you're just unlucky enough, you could get shoved off or simply lose tracking of where you are. And in at number 1 is indeed Pinwheel. The biggest head scratcher of the whole game for sure. After you defeat him for the first time, you're probably just wondering to yourself, was I supposed to come here earlier? It's the placement of Pinwheel that just confuses me the most. The fact that he's down in the catacombs, a fairly late stage area, means that you'll have a fully upgraded weapon, so when you do attack him, it's taking chunks of health off with every swing. It makes you wonder why he has so little health in the first place. If you fight him early on, then he'll undoubtedly be more challenging since it spawns off clones of itself around the room to attack, but since you fight him solely on means that he's almost dead by the time he does spawn his clones. It's just bizarre. Why didn't he have more health? The only answer I can come up with is perhaps it's due to the placement. Yes, it is late stage, but when you consider it being a crucial wall between Catacombs and Tomb of the Giants, and being able to traverse these two areas, that's the real challenge. There's no immediate bonfire, so if you die trying to find one in Tomb of the Giants, then you're back about halfway up the catacombs. It's a particularly brutal design choice in my opinion. It's not as if Tomb of the Giants is easy, it's pitch black for a start. Whenever I've played, I always breathe a sigh of relief when I find the first bonfire in the tomb. But, back to Pinwheel. Maybe that's why he's easy, I don't know, just a thought. What I do think is neat about him though is, you could defeat him fairly early on to unlock the Rite of Kindling. Being able to enjoy 20 Estus is great, and it is due to the world design of Dark Souls. The simple fact that you can access Pinwheel from the beginning is just fantastic. So there we have it. Shout out to Ceaseless Discharge, who I didn't want to list because he literally kills himself. Not much to really discuss as a boss, so all I would have to say is kill him to retrieve a giant soul packet. Anyway, that brings us to a close. Really hope anyone who watched all parts enjoyed what I had to say, whether you agree or disagree. This was really fun for me to make, and I do have a future project I am currently working on. It is Souls related, so apologies if that's not your thing. I have kind of turned into a Souls channel, but it is what really interests me in gaming right now. I'll no doubt also make a video about Dark Souls 3's upcoming DLC, and the bosses within, so catch you then.